Hello everyone, welcome to Sunya IAS and welcome to this lecture. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss something which has consistently been in the news, which has consistently taken up the attention of policymakers, it has taken up the attention of UPSC, I'm sure, journalists and political commentators, everyone, because it is a big deal that it is happening in India. See, we are talking about socio-economic caste census, which we generally just call as caste census. Fine. Now, if you have been following the newspaper even marginally, you should be knowing that Bihar has recently come out with the result of its caste census. And what has the result been? The result has been that they have come out with the percentage of extremely backward classes and backward classes, other backward classes, and as a result, immediately, the maximum ceiling of 50%, the maximum ceiling of 50% reservation in government educational institutions and government jobs has been raised to 65%. In this electoral season, the 50% reservation has been increased to 65%. The census has brought out the data that about 35% people are extremely backward, and families in Bihar are living on less than 200 rupees per day. This kind of data is coming out. Now, of course, it is very important that these realities come out in the open, that is for sure. But right now, our focus is whether we need to collect caste-related data and communicate it to the entire country. Should we be doing that? Now, here, I want to make it very clear the differentiation between certain castes. There are two categories. There are SCs and STs. Now, the data regarding SCs and STs is collected in every census. Okay. And as of 2011, the SC and ST families are about 22% of rural families. SC and ST families are 22% of rural families. So, data regarding them is already there. What we are looking at right now is the data regarding other backward classes, and the entire debate regarding reservation and to what extent, and the mandal politics that we talk about has always been about the other backward classes, because it is not that easy to define other backward classes. It is a very political issue. So the demand, when we say we want a caste census, what we want to say is we want a census wherein we will be able to define all the OBCs of the country as well, and then decide what kind of affirmative action policies are needed. Now, here I'd like to in fact make a small chart wherein I'd like to explain what the Indian caste structure looks like. So, what primarily people know is Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. People know just this. Now, these are 4 categories. And this is not caste, this is Varna. Look at this very carefully. This is Varna. Varna means occupational classification. The Brahmins used to be priests, Brahmins used to engage in religious activities, the Kshatriyas used to fight, the Vaishyas used to trade, the Shudras used to serve. This is the Varna system. A broader system which has come up is the Jati system. And this Jati system, the caste system, is actually the Jati system. Okay. We say in our country कि जाति ऐसी चीज है जो कभी नहीं जाती. The caste identity never goes away from your individual identity, right? Caste को हम बोलते हैं ascriptive identity. It is ascribed to you. You can never change your caste identity. It is ascribed to you at your birth. That is ascriptive identity. So anyway, jati. There are about 3,000 castes in this country. Okay? 3,000 castes. So there are 4 varna. There are about, out of these 4 varna, there come 3,000 castes. And there is another subclassification which is called upjati. Which is called upjati. This will be upjati. Subcaste. Okay. So within a caste also there will be subcaste, and the number here is 25,000 subcastes. So 4 varnas, 3,000 castes and 25,000 subcastes. And please mind you, these are groups. This is not an individual. These are 25,000 groups. These are 3,000 groups. So my point is that our caste-based distinction is very intricate. Our caste-based distinction is very deeply embedded in our culture, and to enumerate this caste is also something that is not easy. And that is why, let me tell you this as well, that in the year 2021, the ruling party, that is BJP on the floor of the Lok Sabha, the BJP representatives clearly said that we are not in favor of having a caste census in India. We do not feel that a caste census in India should happen. Cut to 2023, October 2023, as the result of Bihar caste census come out, the statements have been changed, and the statement from having said that no caste census for us, the statement has changed to saying that we were never opposed to the idea of caste census. The statement has become never opposed to caste census. Now, is this something that has changed on the policy level? No. Ideology of a party does not change that easily. But the fact that there was a caste census in Bihar, multiple states like MP are now promising caste census. Various parties are promising caste census. At the national level, it is the Indian National Congress which is promising caste census. And caste census has become an easy way out to convince the voters that we care about you, that a particular party cares about you, because we will make sure that your caste comes into the disadvantaged caste and you get the benefit of reservation. So that is why a question on caste census is pretty much expected. And let me tell you a very interesting thing about this. This question can come in GS1. This question can come in GS2. Somehow this question can land up in GS4 as well. Okay. So GS1, society. So the topic of caste census can be clubbed with caste as a force in Indian politics, caste as a source or as a force in Indian society, right? When we talk about Indian society, caste is a sub point of Indian society. So this can be asked in GS1. GS2, of course, there is a whole section of social justice. There is a whole section of governance. And caste census as a phenomena, its pros and cons is a very expected question, because this issue has just started. It is not going to die down, right? So next year mains, you can very well expect that caste census as a separate 10 marker or a 15 marker will be asked. In GS4, it will not be asked directly, but when you talk about integrity, when you talk about public mindedness, a question of an example of using caste census in a politically biased way, in a politically motivated way, you can use that example, and caste census can even land up as a case study. In ethics, whether or not to conduct caste census can even land up as a case study. So these are some of the areas where caste census can land up in your mains examination. So with this, I want that your entire focus is now on the content of it. Let me just tell you one last thing, that if you have the Shunya books, GS 1, 2, 3, 4, this caste census topic you will find in GS 2 book. Fine. If you have this, you don't need to make notes. If you don't have it, you need to make handwritten notes. If you don't have it and you're not planning to order it, you need to make handwritten notes from this class as well, and they will suffice. If you want, you can order the books as well. Fine. Chaliye. Now, caste census. First of all, what is the difference between a caste census and a regular census? See, a regular census aims at collecting your demographic data, right? Demographic data. What is demographic data? Data about population, right? What is the average age of the population? What is the gender? What is the kind of occupations people are engaged in, etc. What are the health issues? What are the, all of those things. But when you talk about socio-economic caste census, this in itself has the gist of what you are trying to ask. You are trying to ask, what are the social characteristics? What are the social markers? What is your caste? How much is your income? What is your standing in the society, right? And this is something, socioeconomic caste census as a data set is something which is much more detailed, which is much more personal as well, and that is why it is more controversial as well. If you think about it, that is why SECC as a data set is much more controversial as well, because it is asking about your personal identity, right? Now, census, the first full-fledged census happened in 1881. You would be aware about this. Fine, the first full-fledged census, and after that it has been happening every decade. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and right now it's not an excuse, but it's still not happening, the census. But the 2021 census has gotten very much delayed. It's 2023 and the census has not happened yet. SECC for the very first time happened in 1931. Okay, so both happened during the colonial times itself, but SECC happened much later. And SECC's purpose as such was not to find out about the differentiation and everything. It was to get this data and use it in such a manner that the increasing resistance against India, against British Raj, can be actually rebutted. And also there were demands from various sections of the society. So for example, there was this demand by Dr. Ambedkar for separate electorates, right? It was around the similar time. So these were the reasons why SECC was conducted at that point. And the last SECC that was conducted in India was conducted along with the national census in 2011 itself. So the last census India had was in 2011, and SECC also happened in 2011. However, the data that was collected in SECC has not been made public. Okay, the 2011 SECC data has not been made public. That is the demand of the opposition, that is the demand of the critics, that is the demand of the supporters of the SECC that please tell us how many other backward classes are there. But the problem that that data set has is that it is full of errors. That is what the central government is saying. It is a data set which is full of errors, and that is why central government is not releasing it. And along with it, central government is not really interested to conduct SECC again as well. So this is primarily a background. Okay. Now come to arguments favoring SECC, arguments against SECC, and all of that. The first is, it will help in better identification of your beneficiaries of schemes. So there are many schemes which are focusing on the backward castes and classes specifically. But if you don't have that data of other backward classes, how will you target? Right now what is happening is states at their own levels are identifying the other backward classes, which is fine in its own regard because every state has different OBCs. So if you are an OBC in this particular state, you might, and you're appearing for the government exams of that particular state, you might not be an OBC in another state if you're preparing for that particular exam. Okay. So that is there. Then another is, it will minimize social inequality, because till the time you don't know the evil, till the time you don't know which evil you are fighting against, how will you target to completely annihilate that evil, that is caste? Okay. So you know, like I just told you, there are about 3,000 castes, there are about 25,000 subcastes. If you don't know this data, how will you seek to minimize the differentiation? Right? Better coverage of people who are supposed to get the benefits, then better targeting of people. This is the same point. And the thing is, it is a survey, not a census. Now, even in Bihar, if I were to tell you the topic census is a part of list 1 of the 7th schedule, that is the central list, the union list. But survey as a topic can be conducted by the state as well. So even the Bihar government has got this entire socio-economic caste census not as a census, not as a caste census, it has brought it out as a survey, right? So that is a justification that it's not a census, it is a survey. And periodic surveys, taking out periodic surveys, it is not something that should not be done in a democracy. Then politically, it will promote equality, because that's exactly what happened in Bihar. If we were to take it as a neutral example, we'd say that we know now that this percentage of people are extremely backward. This percentage of people are from the backward classes, and we are subsequently increasing the amount of reservation that we are giving. How difficult it is to understand, right? So that is there. So it will promote political equality by increasing the reservation, by increasing the representation that people have. It will go towards an aspiration of casteless society. Again, the same argument, that if you don't know the evil, how will you target the evil, right? Then caste-based political decisions. Caste-based political decisions will happen, which is not a very good thing, but you can write it over here, that policies will be policies will be made in such a way that the aspect of caste will be factored in. Fix lacunas in reservation, and there is anyways lack of latest data. The reason why what happened? Just a second. The reason why we are not coming out with the 2011 SECC data is because there are a lot of errors. And to fix those errors, we need to bring out new data. We cannot be living in a delusional world where we know that caste exists in India, but we don't want to acknowledge it. We don't want to find the data around it. Then governance, it will help in policy making. Again, it will help in beneficiary identification. improves the efficiency of the schemes that we are bringing out. Bold decisions can be taken. So if we want to go towards annihilation of caste, something which Dr. B.R. Ambedkar aimed at, we need to have that capacity to take out bold decisions. And effective service delivery. Economically, it will lead to inclusion of all the castes in the economic journey and inclusive growth. Overall, planned development, better planning and resource utilization, data unavailability, and reduce inequality. So overall, if you see very objectively, the benefits of caste census are very few. Better service delivery, data utilization, efficiency in service delivery and everything. But they're very few and they're repetitive. Are you understanding? Here comes the argument against, which will actually be counted, because see, you have to understand some political contexts also. When I say, and when it's not just I who am saying that, it is the central government who is saying that they are not in support of the caste census. So when they are not in support of the caste census, it is very clear that you have to know why. Okay. So socially, it will definitely create tensions in society. When you can just think about a situation wherein you are about 18 to 20 years old. Okay, 18 to 20 years old, you have been living your life a certain way, and you were, let's say because of being a female, you were treated in a certain way, right? You were not given equal treatment as your brothers, and equal opportunities, equal college going opportunities, etc. Then somehow at 18 to 20 years, you come to the realization that I have been discriminated against, and now I need to ask for my rights. You will definitely ask for your rights, good thing also, but it will lead to a flux in your family life. Now imagine the same situation on a national level. On the national level, we do know that we need to recognize caste-based distinctions, caste-based differentiations, and we need to make it a point to give recognition to all castes. But the fact is that there will be pain in the process, right? There will be protests, there will be demands which we might not be able to fulfill immediately, right? We need to aspire for a casteless society, but the process will be painful. Just like the process was painful when we wanted to create a linguistically homogeneous society. You remember? We wanted to create a linguistically homogeneous society. Our constitution makers wanted a language called Hindustani, and this language will have features from all the Indian languages, right? So this did not happen, and whenever the government tried to do it, there was a lot of bloodshed, right? Like the Andhra protest that you all must remember. So my point is that it will lead to tensions in the society. When caste census data comes out, and if the government does not act on it, it will lead to tensions in the society, which in the long run might be beneficial. But looking at how caste has been politicized in this country, the goal has never been to completely eliminate the caste. The goal has always been to utilize caste to gain maximum political benefit. Don't you think so? Because otherwise, the goal of Constituent Assembly makers was to eliminate caste-based reservation within 10 years, within 10 to 15 years. It kept on being extended, and now it has most recently, the SC/ST reservation has been extended by the 104th Constitutional Amendment Act, right? So, one reason why this reservation is extended is because the kind of development that was aspired for has not happened. Rightly so, this should be extended. But another reason is also because politicians are not willing to let go of the easy fruit of caste to get the votes out of people. है ना? Getting votes out of people on the name of caste is very easy, and politicians do not want to let go of that. So may increase caste divisions, and people might also hide their caste identity. Are you imagining कि someone comes to your house, they immediately ask that what is your caste? And you somehow live in a rural area wherein casteism rules a lot. And you're not comfortable telling a stranger what your caste is. So it might lead to wrong data collection also. Even today, you pick up any matrimonial ad, and you will see for a fact that the number of caste-based matrimonial ads might have reduced, but they are still there in a huge number, wherein there are separate sections. These are Brahmin weddings, these are Kshatriya weddings, etc. Okay. Then we already have some estimates of Socio-Economic Caste Census, right? The 2011, we have a broad estimate. So do we need to do this all over again? That needs to be thought about. Then politically, there are provisions for SCs, STs, women, etc. And SC, ST and women provisions are also there in the DPSPs. But till the time 102nd Constitutional Amendment Act was not enacted, the OBC aspect, the other backward classes aspect, was not included. Now it is included in Article 15 and Article 16 as well. So earlier it was no constitutional provision, and even in DPSPs today, there is no constitutional provision to give collect data on the other backward classes. Then there will be demand for caste-based reservation, which you can see. Otherwise, our policy making at state level especially is very lax. It's very lax. It moves very slowly. But the result of the caste census came, and immediately in Bihar the legislation was passed, and all of this because it is the election season. So if it was a welfare measure, why to wait for such a long time, and why to wait till the elections? We always forget this, right? We as the electorate, we always forget this. So then against the idea of casteless society, because we will be reinforcing that, okay, this is your caste. You remember, you now caste-based pressure groups will increase, caste-based demands will increase, and all of that will again happen. There are already so many demands by the affluent caste also. Leave the economically backward classes. I'm talking about the affluent castes, like the Marathas, like the Patidars, like the Jats, like the Yadavs. All of these affluent castes in their respective fields have been demanding reservation. So when you take reservation as the final product, then it will not lead you anywhere. Reservation cannot be the final product. It can be a way to reach somewhere, but it cannot be your final product. And we need to understand that. Okay. Then there'll always be delay in releasing of data. Even in the collection of data, there will be, there is no surety whether there will be accuracy or not. Hence, that's a problem. Then, as I told you, the reliability aspect of it. Reliability is not ensured, and error of omission can happen. So, for example, there is this surname called Agarwal, right? It can be spelled in 10 different ways, right? And in 2011 SECC, This is what happened, especially with this surname, that there are so many variants of Agarwal that how will you actually club them together? So all of them ended up being different castes, when in reality all of them are the same caste, they just spell differently. What do you mean by different caste? That they have faced some kind of different situations. But no, this is just different spelling. How can you classify them as different castes? That is a problem. And inconsistencies in data, so that will obviously hinder good governance. When we talk about the way forward, see, there are very pragmatic solutions to this problem of socio-economic caste census, or when we talk about caste census. The pragmatic thing is that when we collect census, we add on some questions in the census itself and link the census data with the SECC data. Are you understanding? Rather than conducting a whole new exercise of SECC, we add some pointers to the census itself so that we can know the relative backwardness of the particular communities, because that is the goal, right? The goal is not to just find out your caste and be done with it. The goal is to find out your caste, find out your relative position in the society, and then take action for your upliftment. That is the goal, right? Address the limitations of the socio-economic caste census. So right now, who are the employees who go and collect the census data? It's the teachers, it's the government employees. Do you think that the kind of sensitivity that is needed to collect the caste census, do you think the kind of training that is needed is done at the level of the Anganwadi workers or the teachers? Unfortunately, no, right? So that becomes a problem. Then enhance the quality and scope of data. So again, knowing the caste cannot be your final product. You try to know the caste and then you try to tell how you can improve the condition of that particular caste. And strengthen data governance. Once you get that data, you utilize the data in such a manner that it leads to the upliftment. Fine. Then this is a very good alternative that way. It's a digital alternative. Now you know that the last budget that was presented was the first paperless budget, completely paperless budget that was presented. When we talk about digital alternatives, when we go on to collect the socio-economic caste census data or the caste census data, we need to use digital technologies, right? So harnessing digital technologies to ensure inclusivity and non-discrimination. So for example, if you would have used a simple tool called MS Excel, you can create drop-down boxes in an MS Excel and you can choose categories rather than writing it on paper that this is the spelling of this is the spelling of this. Just drop down and choose it and then move forward. So the classification will be much better if you harness this. Improve data collection and management and invest in data literacy. So this will happen only when people who are collecting data for you, they know how to utilize these gadgets, right? So you invest in data literacy, right? And before going to the caste census, you consider a preliminary socio-anthropological study, right? Like we have, for example, National Family Health Survey, which keeps on taking out certain surveys to know about the health, to know about the educational outcomes overall. So this kind of socio-anthropological study about where which caste lies, where which caste is happening, should be done at a preliminary pilot stage before doing it on a national stage. So like in a policy making environment, we release a policy in the public domain, like the National Education Policy was released, like the Environment Protection Act was released. So Environment Protection Bill. Similarly, a socio-anthropological study should be conducted prior to the census, and we must aim to rationalize reservation policies. If we keep on using reservation as a tool for gaining political votes, that will not help in the long run. Okay. But the problem is that because of the kind of politics we have developed, we do not think about long run as such. But we need to rationalize reservation policies. The goal has to be to reduce the need for these reservation policies, not to actually increase it. है ना? And ensure effective affirmative action. So I'll give you an example. In IITs, in these high pressure environments, the maximum number of suicides that are committed are by the people who are from the reserved category. Why? Why is that? That is because there is some inherent social dynamic which is making them vulnerable to take this extreme step, and they are not able to get over that even through reservation. Fine, even through reservation, they are not able to get over that, and that is why we need to handle it at a socio-anthropological level, not just at a political level, because handling it at political level has not helped us completely. Right? So that is it for today's class, where we have discussed the socio-economic caste census. Now, when you conclude this particular answer, let me just tell you how you can conclude it. When you conclude an answer on socio-economic caste census, you can write that, just a second, that caste census should be seen as instrument to the end of casteless society. Instrument to achieve a casteless society कर दो. Instrument to achieve a casteless society, rather than a political tool to garner votes. Hence, socio-economic caste census must be evaluated for its need and requirement in India's Amrit Kal. Fine. When you are talking about a particular policy which you know the government is not supporting, even you are not very much in favor, the people, the experts are not very much in favor, you need to have a very balanced approach. So you're not saying that SECC should not be conducted. You are saying that its validity, its rationality, its need, its requirement, that needs to be evaluated in this entire structure. Okay. So that's all for today's class. I hope you derived some value out of this lecture. I will see you all in the next one, and keep studying, keep working hard. Thank you for watching this lecture.